New Year to all. On the recommendation of the Board of Health, the Select Board is meeting remotely, and it encourages all groups in town to meet remotely just while we're having this increase of COVID cases. So I would like to, it being 7:02, I'd like to call the January 5th, Wednesday, January 5th, Select Board meeting to order. Let the record indicate that Christian DeVoe, Meg Arts, and Renee Ferre is Deli is available, is present, and myself. So, without further ado, I wanted to open the floor to public comment. Are there any individuals that have any issues that they would want to bring in front of the Select Board at this time? Or comments to the Select Board? Okay. See, we've got a whole new format, guys. Seeing none of no comment, I don't see any hands raised or anything. Seeing none, I'm going to move forward to the minutes. Have you had a chance? Everyone had a chance to review the December 9th and the December 16th minutes?
I did the 9th. I did not do the 16th.
Good.
Yeah.
You all said with the minutes, 16th and 9th? The 9th and the 16th?
I am.
Renee, are you?
Yeah, Michael, we can. I'll motion that the board approve the minutes for December 9th open session, December 9th executive session, December 16th open session, and December 16th executive session.
I get a second?
Second.
Motion from Renee, second from Christine. Move to roll call. Meg?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
And I also am both December 16th, December 9th, December 9th executive session, December 16th, December 16th executive session approved unanimously. That one thing that I do want to say that on the roll call, just want to note that Chairman Jack Conway isn't here. I took attendance, but didn't say that Jack wasn't here. So he's on the mend. He's feeling under the weather. So going from there, if there aren't any complaints, I would like to actually move the agenda around a little bit and jump to old business if there aren't any complaints, to talk about the mitigation agreement with American Outdoor Advertising. Would there be any issues with that on the board?
Do we have another board here, another commission with us, Michael?
We do. I know that they actually have an appointment, and then they just wanted to discuss something else that might be a little bit lengthier in time.
Okay, so we're going to group those together?
Yeah, we will do those two together, correct.
And then I think the only other thing that we asked is somebody from KP Law here to answer any of our questions?
They are not here. They were not going to be available. Mike, I'll actually let you answer that. I still see they weren't available this evening, correct?
No, they weren't. And we'd like to continue this subject to a future meeting, if you agree to that.
Yeah. So are we okay just jumping into the old business and hopefully asking for continuance to future meeting? The main purpose being, I know there's an open hearing date. There's still an open hearing pending the planning board, and I would like to see that personally. I'd like to see that closed, and I think it would be best for us before we kind of move forward on the mitigation discussion as well.
Yeah, I guess, Michael, if I may ask, or Mike, can we have some assurances that we'll have town council at the next meeting?
Yes.
So that we don't keep asking these folks to come back?
Yep. So, Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
My name is David Minucci, and I represent American Outdoor Advertising.
we have no objection to you putting this off to a future meeting so that the planning board has sufficient time to act before on the special permit application we have before it.
Thank you, Attorney Venusian. With that being said, the chair would be open to a motion to postpone the under old business, the mitigation agreement for outdoor advertising.
I don't know that we have to vote on it, Michael. I think
It doesn't have to be voted on.
it's just an agenda item. We can just move it. It's not a public hearing or anything, right?
No. Nope.
Yeah, this is where I'm showing my green, as I said earlier. I have green AM. So okay, then we're just going to postpone that to a future meeting.
Is it going to be the next meeting?
Like with that, hold on, the public hearing closes January 16th.
18th.
Our next meeting, I think, is the 16th. 19th, I apologize.
The 19th.
But
Dyslexia.
yeah, we're on the 19th. So yeah, this would probably be at our January 19th meeting.
Let's postpone it to that January 19th meeting.
Fine. Okay, thank you, folks. Stay safe. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Hey, Michael, can I just ask him, is there is Jen on? Is there an updated agenda? I don't see, I was just looking for, you said that there's a discussion with the Water and Sewer Commission on another item, but I don't see another item on the agenda.
It's outside the normal, it's something that's kind of outside the normal business. That it's a very light discussion and regarding just a letter that they're going to be sending out to the public regarding some issues. But it's not really, it's more of an informational update than an open discussion.
Okay.
With that being said, let's move back to resignations and retirement. And actually, before we jump in there, if I can take these out of order and move to number 2 first, and kind of read the announcement for Yvette Mendoza of the Cultural Council. Mike, do you have that letter in front of you?
Yep.
I don't have it right in front of me.
You want me to read that?
Christine, do you have that in front of you as well? Or Christine has it.
Okay.
Christine reading to it.
Yeah, do you want me to read the letter, or like the letter that was written?
It's pretty long, right? Is there?
It is.
Is she on?
Yeah.
Probably the email would be good, Christine.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so this was dated on December 28th. It says, "Dear Select Board members, my name is," I apologize if I pronounced the name, Yvette Mendoza. I recently moved to Norton this past year and have come across Norton's Cultural Council. I'm a recent graduate from Clark University and would love to be involved within the community. Below I have attached my letter of interest, which, as we stated, this is a very well-worded, long letter of interest, but we appreciate the interest. So this is her involvement.
Great. I don't see Mendoza or anyone from the Cultural Council on. So with that, I will be open to take a motion to approve Ms. Mendoza's appointment.
So moved.
Second? Meg, did you make?
Second.
Second.
I saw lips move, but I didn't see anything come out.
I had my head down, I looked up and I was like, I think she seconded. So the motion with, we'll just give it to Meg. Meg is the second. And Renee, we'll move to vote. Renee?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Meg?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
And I too am an aye. Great. And Now let's move to point 1. And Mr. Chairman, I believe we have Steve Bishop, the chairman of the Water Commission on. Mr. Bishop?
Right here, Mike. How you doing?
Good. Yourself? I wanted to see if you wanted to open up your meeting, and so we could have that joint meeting for that joint appointment.
All right. I'm not versed at exactly opening a meeting. Is there something I need to say? Sorry, that I don't mean to act like a dummy, but
Let me see. Is there just yourself on here?
No, Jim Jordan's on too.
I just call to order the Water Commission meeting. Give the date 7/13.
okay. I'd like to call to order Water Commissioners meeting at 7:30 p.m. on January 5th, 2022.
So it looks like we have maybe you could I would pass it over to you to talk to us about a little bit about Mr. Bernstein.
I've spoken to Mr. Bernstein a couple different occasions. He has been on a previous board in another town. He has experience. He has engineering experience. He wants to get involved, and quite honestly, at this point, anyone that wants to get involved, definitely not going to turn the cheek. So we welcome that he wants to be involved, and definitely welcome to have him on board.
Good for you for grabbing someone when you saw the opportunity, Mr. Chairman. So we maybe give Mr. Bernstein a chance to speak to the commission, the board, as well as the commission.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Bernstein. I'm a registered professional engineer. I'm a civil engineer and in the consulting business. Essentially, what I do is I'm a water and sewer engineer. So it only kind of like fitting that I sit on a water and sewer commission. As I've spoken to Frank and Steve over the last couple of weeks, basically I just about everything the town of Norton does on water and sewer, I've done, built it, designed it, or was involved with construction of similar facilities throughout Massachusetts and New England, if not international, but we'll just dwell in Massachusetts. And I feel that I'm a recent resident of town. I moved to Red Mill Village 2.5 years ago. And I've been thinking about Water and Sewer Commission for a while. So I've decided to take the plunge and join, asked to be appointed. And if I enjoy the experience, I'll run for the office in April to fill a vacancy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bernstein. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bernstein or the Water Commission?
Michael, I don't have any questions, but I wanted to say, Mr. Bernstein, I read your letter and your resume as well, and I have to say, when I read it, I was really excited to see somebody with your experience and your credentials interested in this position. So thank you so much. And I think by your last statement, we just have to make sure that the rest of the commission and the board make these next 2 months really enjoyable for you. So we see you on the ballot in April.
Tons of fun.
Thank you.
And I would just kind of repeat just what Renee said. Nomination papers are now available at the clerk's office. So, keep that in mind. With that being said, if there's any other questions or discussion? And Mike, is this a joint vote, or do I take a vote and then Steve takes a vote?
You can just start with the Water and Sewer Commission and have them vote, and then go to your board.
I'd take a motion to, I take the opening to a motion to approve Mr. Bernstein's to the Water Commission nomination.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Steve, hold on just 1 second. Let me think you actually, I was taking the motion. Yeah, I'll take you as the first motion. Is there a second?
No.
Steve's motion.
Second.
Right, in Jordan, okay. And, so, that's a roll call vote. Steve? Okay, you're a yes?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Meg?
That was a yes. Sorry.
And Christine, I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. And Renee?
Yes.
And I too am an aye. Congratulations, Mr. Bernstein. Thank you very much for volunteering to the board, and hopefully we'll see you on the ballot in April.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So with that being said, I wanted to take this time. We actually had a discussion earlier with Frank, and he gave us an update on some not issues going on, but there's some things going on at the water department. And is Frank still on? Yeah. I wanted to maybe pass this over to him to kind of give us an update on just a recent issue going on. It's not an issue. I don't want to kind of make it a bigger deal than it is, but I'll pass it over to Frank, and he can kind of explain in more detail.
Thanks, Mike. So earlier today, a few of the members were privileged to have an informational session. So I'll bring everybody else up to speed. Back in late November, we actually had one sample at one of our dead end locations that caused us to exceed what's called the long-running annual average. The sample was taken what's known as TPHM, which is total trihalomethanes, basically a byproduct of chlorination in the system. When chlorine reacts with any organics or organic matter in the system, there's always a byproduct that is created from this. Opportunities to flush and remove some of the sediment have escaped us with the limited water that we have available from our current sources, which we are working to replace, as you guys are well aware of. So that the multiple different factors happen. The lack of flushing, the extremely high temperatures, not only throughout the summer, but also lasting late into November, where typically we would already see a decline in water temperature in our elevated tanks, has all led to the fact that we have to add more chlorine to the distribution system to maintain, simultaneous compliance with other water samples, mainly bacteria and coliform samples, things like that. So this level has just put us over the long-running annual average target, which is 80 parts per billion. We come in with a long-running annual average of 82. Regardless of the number, it is an exceedance. We've worked with Mass DEP, crunching the numbers, coming up with immediate solutions and long-term solutions as required by Mass DEP, with a 70-page document that will be filled out because of the exceedance. So what we're going to do short-term, as required by Mass DEP, is put out a public notification. This is not an emergency. It says it clearly in the letter. I'm not sure if Mike was able to get you guys a copy of that. I had sent him over a draft a while ago. I'm not sure if he actually received the finished copy because it has not gone out yet. But basically, there's wording in here specific explaining TPHMs in very minimum detail. There is a link on here that was also required where Mass DEP would recommend consumers with questions would follow up and basically educate themselves on TPHMs. They do also have us put our information down so that customers can obviously call us. We can give them some basic information about it. But again, we're not doctors, we're not scientists. We want to give limited information, but facts. And if there's any questions that arise from the public, we've been instructed by DEP to basically forward them to the link where they can find the information that they have provided for these situations. But again, it's not an emergency. There is nothing to do on your end. This is something on our end. Typically, we do see rises and falls in THM levels that are trending with the seasons based on the temperature. that now we seem to almost not really have a winter anymore. The third quarter really lasts a lot longer than it used to. Typically, we'd be able to lower our chlorine residuals at our distribution sites somewhere for a couple weeks of October. Now with the weather staying warmer, the water stays warmer, so we have to continue to keep the chlorine levels higher than anticipated as we go into the fourth quarter, which is where we have this exceedance. Mike, were you able to send the copies of that email to the select board a while back? I know you'd mentioned it.
I did.
Okay. All right. So you probably have a copy of the letter in front of you. It may not be on town letterhead. It may not have been finalized by then. But basically there is wording in there about, what is being done. As I mentioned, it's not an emergency. MassDEP made sure we put that in there. And, this is not to panic anybody. This is an informational requirement that goes out. Public education is a big deal. We, along with MassDEP, want to make sure that the public's aware of what goes on with their drinking water and what samples are being taken. And if you come to a level or exceed a level, there's protocol that you have to follow. And that's the shortest version I could give compared to the explanation we gave earlier today. But definitely, if there's some questions, I'll do what I can to answer. And we actually have the engineers on this evening with some new technical support, something a little bit deeper than I can get into.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lawyer. Are there any questions for Frank or I know we do have Simpson and Weston on as well. Sampson and Weston on as well. Any questions for the board?
Yeah, Michael, if I may. Excuse me. Frank, thanks for the update. I know, I don't remember seeing this communication. I was just looking through my email, so I apologize. I might be just a little bit behind where I should be. But what are the main concerns with this being in the drinking water? And when you mentioned, I think you mentioned like an annual average. Does that happen because we exceed the limit over like multiple times over a year? Like what's that criteria? So I guess two questions. What's the criteria? And then what are the concerns with this being in drinking water?
Well, the concerns here, I'm sorry you don't have a copy of it in front of you. The letter that's going to go out is going to look very similar to the manganese report that goes out. Basically, it's a standard form that is something that you see from MassDEP. There is nothing that needs to be done on the homeowner's side. This is not a boil water order or any corrective actions on that side. Basically, with this, if you feel you have concerns, about taking in water that may have this level, this isn't something that's town-wide. This is isolated to a dead-end water main in the far out reaches of our system. It's actually down on Richardson Avenue where the sample was taken. Those specific locations are targeted based on what's called residence time. So the distance from the water treatment facility or from the drinking water well to the furthest most point in the system is where the water is going to have the most contact with the disinfectant. So there's a balance that goes on with all water departments and water agencies. Basically, there's bacteria that's naturally found in water, and the disinfectant product, whatever you choose to use, most people, like we do, use liquid chlorine bleach, similar to what's used in pools. There's a balancing act. How much you can add at your source, you have to have a detectable limit at your furthest most point in your system. With, like I was mentioning earlier, the higher temperatures, the drought early on in the season, everything plays a factor in it. So the more chlorine you have left over at the end, when the water reaches its furthest most point, you have the potential to have a higher level of TTHMs. So TTHMs or total trihalomethanes are always created. It's a constant byproduct of chlorination when it mixes with organics or natural minerals found in drinking water. So there's a balance. So the long-running annual average is something that DEP does on what's called a smart form. There's samples that are taken at specific locations in town, and those results are put into the form. You have, you basically add them up and you divide by 4 for that specific location, and that gives you your long-running annual average for that location. So it is common to see numbers slightly higher than, the 80 parts per billion, and obviously lower, which is typically where we'd love to see them, and that's how you come out with your annual average. if you obviously, like we did here, we had a high number in what's considered the fourth quarter, which is October through December for 2021. And where that's not a typical result for that water based on the time of year and typical water temperatures that we see, it would typically be, we would have been below 80 as we have, numerous years prior. Changes in the aquifer, changes obviously in the climate have all led to this. Not to speak for other places, but we're not the only one dealing with exceedances of THM, of HAA5, which is another byproduct. All of what people have noticed throughout not just Massachusetts, but even just the East Coast with changes in climate. So this is something that is going to be dealt with for some time if things change. If they say global warming is actually happening, different techniques will have to be come up with and presented to DEP to change basically the chemical dosages that are added. Some of those things we've already started working on way prior. I don't even have a date. I know Kara is on. She may remember when we started this. It may have been over a year ago. We started working with Mass DEP to try and allow us to lower our pH levels in our water system. Something that was changed back in 2016 or 2017 for stuff that was out of our control. That was unfortunately the beginning of when the water quality changes had happened, long before the treatment plant went online. Changes in pH, you have to actually add more chlorine to a higher pH of water to have the same disinfection problem. So there's multiple things that have gone on leading up to this point. We've worked with DEP, like I said, for at least a year, I think it's, if not maybe even longer, looking to get changes approved to our water system. And now, unfortunately, with this exceedance, they are going to expedite the process. They've agreed to allow us to take different water quality parameter samples, and we'll be obviously monitoring the system closely. We can't make any drastic changes because this could be an anomaly. This could be a random pocket of stagnant water that has made its way to the end of the system. And, this sample could be not representative of what we typically see there. But we can only sample certain times of the year based on our sampling plan. So again, making major changes, reacting, to this right away is something you have to be very cautious of doing because you can obviously have a backfire on you too if you change your treatment technique before you actually have a confirmatory sample, which would be a second sample.
Great, thanks for the explanation.
I hope it wasn't too confusing.
No, it's good. And Christine just shared with me the letter too, so I have that in front of me.
I did. I also asked Frank if he would ask Mass DEP if they could, when the letter goes out, if we might be able to have a information session. Because I know that we need the Mass DEP approval on that. So he's going to check with that and get back to us. Maybe after letters go out, having an informational session that we could answer any concerns about the letter being sent. Any other questions?
We also
I just want to say, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Christine. We also have the engineers on if you had any other questions that you'd like to ask them regarding the stuff that we've been working on behind the scenes with DEP prior to this.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you guys. I know it's tough. A lot of these things are, it's you can only do so much to prevent things from happening, but some things are just out of your control. So, but the reactionary is very good, I feel, with us, especially, in the town, and how people, how when we get these problems, we know what to do. It's not like we're scrambling for situations. So really appreciate you guys being on top of this. I personally don't have any questions because I read the letter and I think it's pretty straightforward. I know there's going to be concerns and there's going to be calls and Brooke's going to be on the phone a lot, but we'll get through it. But yeah, thank you guys for being on top of this.
And Christine, to that point, I saw Ben came onto camera. Ben, in your experience, like what should we anticipate from individuals once they're notified of this? Like I imagine that there are items. I was looking at the long-term exposure to it or drinking. So is that really what the main focus tends to be when residents call in?
Absolutely. It's the long-term effect here. And like Frank said, you guys just reached over the 80 parts per billion threshold there at 82 parts per billion. So I think it's the long-term effect that's going to get people. You guys have been in compliance for many years now. This is your first step over the line. It's just 2 parts per billion over. And it's the long-term effect that you should really consider. That's one of the main talking points for sure.
Okay. And are there any like mitigations that you recommend, like the whole house filters or anything that residents can do that if they do have concerns?
I think the main thing residents can do if they have concerns is kind of check with their health advisors from there. But like Frank said, the immediate options we can consider as the water department is flushing. And other short-term considerations we're also considering, and we'll look into long-term options to get either TOCs, which is a precursor for TTHMs, out of the water, or we can remove the TTHM as well using other options.
Okay, so there's nothing really outside of what the water department does that would be a recommendation to residents?
I think they just kind of have to find their own option, talk to their health advisors.
Okay.
Bottled water is an option if they are overly concerned, but there's certainly options out there for them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Now that we have the Water Commission on here, there's a kind of more of an announcement, but I would love to have them speak to it. And it is let me share my screen here. Hold on a second. Does someone on the Water Commission just want to talk about this? I know that in October you've implemented a rebate program for those still affected by discoloring of water. Steve, did you, John Harrop or someone, or even Frank, do you guys want to just talk to this quickly and just get to work and kind of go from there?
Yeah, we're thinking of ideas of trying to help the customers out when they have sediment issues, because we don't have the sediment issues we used to have. This is a good viable option for people to get into, where we can give a rebate that can go back. It'll take it off their bill. This whole house filter is a very inexpensive and easy to maintain device that you can get at most any Lowe's or Home Depot type stores. With proof of purchase, we have to inspect it. Schedule a visual inspection as this document says, and I think it's a good viable option for some people that do have ongoing sediment issues. Some people will have to change out the filters a little more, depending on where they are, with infrastructure improvements as well as the plant is going on. We've had the best water we've had in years, ever, actually, not years, ever. So we're getting less and less complaints, but this will be a good viable option, I believe, for homeowners to take advantage of.
Great, and this rebate form is available on the Water and Sewer Department website, is that correct?
I believe so, correct? Is that correct, Frank?
If it's not, it will be. John's working on that.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure everything was okay tonight before the select board, before we put it on the website. We have offered it to people that have called, but we haven't put it on the website yet.
Can't wait to see it up on there, and hopefully residents that are affected can participate in this, and hopefully it improves their situation.
And don't pay attention to that date. That date was just thrown on there when we first started batting this around. Actually, after we spoke, like when you came to our meeting, we put this together, and I think it's a good option for people. We'll agree.
Well, thank you very, very much for the update, and welcome, Mr. Bernstein. And at this point, the select board has other meetings. John, Steve, do you want to adjourn your meeting, and then we'll kind of move on our way?
Sure. Jim, you may.
Okay, I move to adjourn our Water and Sewer Commission meeting.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Steve?
Aye.
All right. Aye, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that being said, we can continue on with the agenda. I see us at section licenses and permits, and it looks like we have a common vic license. Basically, it's a approval for a common vic license and an application for Yaz Kitchen LLC to be utilized at 63 Main Street. The chair would take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll move the roll call vote. Meg,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Renee,
Yes.
and I too am an
Thank you. I'm Michael. I'm from Yai's Kitchen.
aye. Oh, nice to meet you. Maybe if you want to just take a moment and just tell us about the plans of the new shop.
Sure. So my wife and I live in Sharon, so we're right down the road, and kind of born of the pandemic, we started doing a Thai food pop-up over here in Sharon about 2 years ago, and it was wildly successful. So in the spring, we purchased a food truck, and we've been operating a food truck here in Sharon in the late summer, right up through the week before Christmas, and that was crazy as well. And we have a friend who knows the landlord over there, and he knew we were looking for a space. So I believe there's a really sad story. I believe the gentleman who was working in there recently passed away, and the space became available. So he called us up knowing that we were looking for a space. And I think we had a lease signed in like 2 days. We didn't hesitate. So the plan is to open up a Thai restaurant. But I can guarantee you it's going to be different than any Thai food you've ever had. So unless you've been to Thailand. So my
You
wife.
want to do a soft opening and invite the select board, we're more than welcome to come.
I was thinking that same thing.
I will be definitely a regular customer and love
That's not
Thai
asking
food.
too much, Megan. Are you sure? I don't want to put you out.
Not at
No,
all. I'm
I
happy.
think-
I'm happy.
Yeah, I think we should take one for the town and be the samplers.
That's
You
right.
guys are great. Wow. You guys really step up for the folks of Norton.
That's right.
So it's
You still have a yellow curry or something on those lines, hopefully.
yeah. So my wife she's actually in Thailand now. She just left a few days ago. So, so Yai is the Thai word for grandmother, and everything my wife learned, she learned from her grandmother, her Yai, and then my son's grandmother, my wife's mother. She is from a very, very small village in northern Thailand, right on the border of Myanmar, so as far north as you can get. And it's a stone's throw from the river that separates Thailand and Myanmar. Anyway, the food is so authentic. It's hard to describe without tasting it. She makes her own curry pastes. She makes her own curry powders. Her mother ships over wild peppercorns that she picks, flowers and herbs that you can only get in Thailand. My mother-in-law will dry them out in the sun and pack them up and send them over. So the food is it's just really, really delightful. So, she'll have all the classics like pad thai and pad see ew and some really good fried rices. And then she'll have some things on there that will really just, you wouldn't have seen it before. You may not have heard about it. And you definitely wouldn't see some of these dishes on traditional Thai restaurant menus. So very, very authentic. The menu is going to be really small. We're not really doing much to the space. We're just going to put in a new floor, some paint, a new menu board, redo the front counter, change the sign. I spoke with Nick Iafredi at the building department about the sign just yesterday. So it seems like we're moving along. Hope to be open March 1st.
If you would do us a favor, if you would like the Norton Economic Development Council. They'd be glad to get the message out there, and they would be about your following and when you decide to open and so forth. I know that the committee's very involved in trying to support businesses openings and so forth.
The Norton Economic Development Department?
Commission, yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Michael, this is music to my ears. I joke. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, lived all around DC, London, and New York. And I've always joked that we just need a good restaurant around here. So I'm just so thrilled to hear something authentic and cool and different. And we welcome you with open arms. I will make sure you are busy all the time.
Well, people are walking in already. Whenever we're there, I mean, we're slinging paint around and people come walking in the door. So, you know, from my understanding, the folks that were there before us were really, really well liked and are missed. So we have some big shoes to fill, and we're going to do our best to make sure that everybody feels welcome. So we're excited.
Congratulations and good luck. And,
Did you mention your target opening date?
March
March
1st.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Renee, our birthday celebration's in April.
I was thinking we can do multiple things: opening celebration, birthday celebration, Easter's in there, right?
Yeah, we're excited.
Good. Thank you very much, sir, and good luck to you. And we will definitely see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, with that being said, are there any announcements?
Mike, I have one. I got a call from the Eagle Scouts, and due to COVID, their what was it, January 9th, I believe, it was going to be their ceremony, and they're postponing it. It's indefinite. We don't know the new date yet. So if anyone was planning on attending, don't attend.
Yeah, thank you. I was planning on attending. Didn't even think that would be canceled, but we're good. Any other announcements, Christine or Renee?
There's a blood drive at St. Mary's this Saturday from, I think it was like 8 to 2. I apologize, I didn't screenshot it. That's sponsored by the Knights of Columbus. So you can sign up. I believe it's floating around Facebook. There's a link to sign up. If you're willing, able, and healthy, please consider donating. And the Norton Youth Baseball Softball is doing a clothing drive, one of the fun drives, this Saturday. I think it was, I can't remember the time. Might have been like
Christine, I thought it was, and I'm only interested because I've been saving it, but I thought it was blankets, and towels, and sheets, unless I'm wrong. Or is it both?
Let me double check. I just had it up too.
No, I take that back. I think it was coats.
It was no, they did their coat drives already.
They did that already? All right.
Yep, which they got over 100 coats, which is fantastic. But let me get the information for the fun drive. Okay, here we go. January 8th, 9 to 10:30 at Virtual. Yep, it's just gently used soft goods. So like, clothing, and I know usually, if I can remember from, I think Mead did one too, but it was like you could do like curtains or like bed sheets, things like that besides clothing. And then I don't see it on this one, so I'm not going to mention it, but sometimes they have shoes, but I don't think I see shoes as an option for this one. So yeah, gently used soft goods. Oh, wait, Meg, I have it exactly here. Men's, women's, children's clothes, coats, shoes, scarves, handbags, wallets, fashion accessories, ties, belts, backpacks, bedding, comforters, blankets, sheets, towels, linen, tablecloths, curtains, and pillows.
And it's
this Saturday.
This Saturday, 9 to 10:30, and they're also doing it on the 22nd and the 29th, same time, same location.
And any other?
Then I'll send you the screenshots.
Thank you.
And seeing no more announcements, we'll move on to new business. We're flying through this, so I want to keep flying, but this is in regards to the discussion and the proposal that I wanted to bring forward to discussion for town meeting. There were two that I wanted to, before we kind of even this, just wanted to introduce to the select board. The first one was the creation of a public works department. That our next meeting for that article with the working committee is on the 12th. Today, I just wanted to share with you a few things. Let me actually, hold on one second. I sent to everyone the packets. Let me just see what's the thing.
You sent it, Michael? It's not in our packet?
I don't, it's in the email. It's in the email.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Let me just share my screen and we'll go from there. Okay, sorry. Let me just close this. So the purpose of what I want to try to propose is a appointing committee for the finance committee members. So this committee would be creation of a committee chaired by the moderator, and would be made up. The committee would be made up by elected officials within town. So basically, select board would be appointing one member. The assessors would be appointing a member from their board. The school committee, the planning board, and then it would be the town moderator. And they would they would review the applicants and would then vote on members that would be appointed to the finance committee. The article requires change of both the bylaws and the charter. So it not only has to be approved at town meeting, but it has to go to a vote of the town. Couple of things that from the last process from before when I went through it, there were a couple of questions that kind of came up, and part of it was, is it a power grab? No, it's kind of the opposite. This committee would be required to be part of the open meeting law and would be a group of elected officials within town. Does this add bureaucracy to the process? No, in my opinion, and hopefully others see that, it actually implements a fair review process to the finance committee. Right now, not that it isn't fair, but one of the things that we see is obviously it's one individual, it's one individual's deliberation on who's best for the committee. This would allow, the finance committee, this would create a committee that would basically review these individuals and then make appointments. Who would be on the committee? As I said, the town moderator would be chair, appointed members of the select board, school committee, board of assessors, and the planning board. One of the things that we found out, and I'm going to skip over the first, is this a conflict of interest for board members? No, not all the meetings are open, and all the members of the board are elected officials. Additionally, a group decision is less likely to be spoiled than if one individual was making it. Is the current process broken? Not at all. This change brings more transparency to a process that is currently, there is no transparency to the current process. And I believe this is a leftover from our original charter of when it was decided. Do other towns have finance appointing committees? This is one thing where for myself, I didn't do the homework. Since then, I have done my homework. And if I may share this with you. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to share this document with you. I'll be glad to answer. So let me just finish doing this, and I'm glad to answer any questions on what I found. I did a review of Bristol County, Plymouth County, Norfolk County, and Middlesex County, just counties around us, which consisted of 131 towns and cities. Of those 131 towns and cities, 43 of them, of the 100, there are 30 cities which don't have a process for appointing they don't have a finance committee. Okay, so I just took the towns. Out of the 100 towns that are left, 43 of them have some kind of appointed committee. Okay, and I'll be glad to share this. I shared this information with you in spreadsheet with you on that. Okay, from what I found on my research is this seems to be the way people are going because of the demand for transparency, open meeting laws. Since the demands of those came forward, it seems towns are moving more towards a committee appointment versus a committee appointment versus just being appointed by the moderator. I know some of the feedback I got was, well, why change it? It's not broken. Well, that's not why you don't propose a change. Just because it's not broken doesn't mean this. I believe one of the things that we as a board seem to be is always about transparency. We try to be as open and forthcoming as possible. And I think this process would allow for that. And so specifically, and this is kind of an overview question, I'm going to stop sharing this. And did I share the spreadsheet or did I not share the spreadsheet? Okay. I'm going to share one more document if I can. It's actually, I'm going to share the document that would be being proposed and what the changes are exactly. Okay, the original charter, as the original on the charter original is right there. What we're proposing on the changes is just changing be appointed by the finance committee members shall be appointed by the finance appointing committee, the deleting moderator, the number of members on the committee, okay, and then basically the moderator shall serve as chair of the finance appointing committee and shall appoint all others. So on the charter, the changes are very minimal. On the bylaws, it's a little different. We are deleting this whole 20-8 portion, and we are proposing the makeup of that committee, a 5-member finance appointing committee, with the town moderator serving as the chair and 4 additional members, each to be members of and designated by respectively the following boards: Select Board, School Committee, Planning Board, and the Board of Assessors. No later than May 15th in any year, each such board must file with the town moderator and the town clerk the name of their respective designee without any provision of the section to the contrary. However, if by the close of business on May 15th in any year, the boards listed herein fail to designate a member to serve on the finance appointing committee or fail to file such designation with the town clerk, the remaining members of the finance appointing committee may appoint any designated voter of the town to serve as a member of the finance appointing committee for a period of 1 year, at which time the respective board can designate one of its members to serve for the remainder of the unexpired term. So that, with that being said, I would love to get some feedback, and if this is something that it's just because the world of Michael Toole has passion to bring certain change doesn't make it reality. I'd love to, see if they have any questions for me and what I can possibly. I know that you're seeing this probably for the first time, these 3 documents for the first time. We're going to see them again, obviously, but I wanted to just start opening up discussion.
So
Yes. Oh, go ahead, Christine.
okay, I have 2 things. So my first thing is, can you elaborate more on how the current finance committee is not transparent? Is it in who's on the committee? Not specifically this, like who is on it right now, but who gets to be on the committee, or is it how it's elected? What part isn't transparent?
Yeah. And just for clarification, just so the finance committee itself is transparent. The appointing process is actually a designation of the town moderator. And it isn't that, I don't think he's purposely this. He's not required to have an open meeting. An open meeting law of one person would not be, it just wouldn't happen. So what this would do is just create an appointing committee that would basically deliberate the individuals interested in the committee. And if there's only one, That's so be it. If there are multiple people that are interested, the committee basically has to obey the open meeting laws, has to deliberate the discussions, and a public vote would be taken to those who would be appointed to the finance committee. Does that answer your question, Christine?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to clarify which part wasn't the transparent.
And if I spoke that, I said the finance committee wasn't transparent. It's the appointing process to the finance committee, and it's not transparent. It's not purposely not transparent. It's just by design. It's one individual. Unless we're going to enter that one individual's head, it's going to always be that way.
Okay. And then my other point is, my only concern on the whole thing is, and I think we kind of mentioned it before, is that, I understand where you're coming from with grabbing people from the select board, the school committee, the planning board. Totally get it. But a lot of people who volunteer for those positions are volunteering just for those positions, if that makes sense. And also, it's another time commitment. So, and skill set that you need, because like you said in the document, it is, it could be argued that it is one of the most important committees in town. So, if you're grabbing, if you were to throw me on the finance committee, I would be petrified because I'm not well versed in finance. I'm still learning. So I of course wouldn't want to be on it, but what if everybody on the select board is like me and doesn't want to be on it, doesn't feel that they don't have the knowledge to be on it. So that's just where my little bit of hesitation is with it. I don't know if it's possible to, turn it into, if we're concerned with the moderator electing or appointing people, if we can turn it into an elected position. I don't know if that's possible, but I personally would feel more comfortable doing that, if that's possible.
So Christine, just for point of clarification, the members of the select board would not be on the finance committee. They would be appointing individuals that would want to be on the finance committee. What we would do is we as a select board would choose one person to be on the appointing committee. And that appointing committee then they would take the applications of individuals interested in the finance committee. And then they would then vote on those individuals and say, this is the person we're going to do appoint right now. Right now, it's just the moderator saying, and it isn't, we haven't been harmed by, I'm not saying the moderator is doing a horrible job at it. I'm not saying that at all. I just think I'd like to see more people involved in appointing process for what is arguably the most important committee in town. They review all the town articles. They review the budgets. They're the backstop of the budgets. These are things that I think are very, very important to the town. And I think this committee, I think the process requires more diligence into appointing people to this committee.
Okay, understood. Thank you for clarifying.
I guess my only, I can go any way. I think it goes back to, I think we said this the first time it was brought up, is we don't even get, I don't know how many people actually sort of lobby to be on the finance committee. I don't even know if it's just, one person that comes forth. I don't know if this would create a bottleneck. Would it create a streamlined process? I don't know. I just feel like we are so short on volunteers in town. I just don't know if this is going to create help or hurt. I don't know.
Typically, when there's an opening, and it's minus I believe, the last appointment. Last appointment, there was only one person interested, and that makes that appointment easy, right? But prior to that, in other appointments, there were typically 2 to 3 people that are typically interested in here, and that process isn't, the moderator chooses, and it's never brought up or shown on a vote, or those people don't even get to make a public stance. They may show their interest, but they don't even get to make an argument of why they might want to be on the board. They don't have to do it. It's kind of it's not that, it's like I said, it's not that the process is totally horrible. It's just, it looks, I'm surprised the moderator hasn't come under more criticism for favoring one person or not, because it's just them taking, okay, this is what I think is best, right? And I think, like I said, this is an important committee in town, and I think it should be very transparent. I think people on these things and the process of the selection to be on this committee should be very open.
Sorry about that. I just coughed. I tried to hit mute and I shut my video off instead.
Oh, I think
I didn't mean to do that. So I'll add a couple points here. Christine, you mentioned about this being an elected position. Like the position of the moderator is elected, and I think we've seen, especially through the past years, like Water and Sewer Commission is a great example. You just don't have people running for it because when you have the elected position, it's such a formal process. And then, Michael, you made a comment about like they don't have an opportunity to say why they want to do it. I mean, that is happening. Like they apply to the position, the moderator conducts an interview. And I think, again, it goes back to the town elected the moderator, and we elect the moderator with the authority to appoint finance committee members. I think that by having, and I mentioned this before, right, by having somebody from these different committees, each of these committees has kind of their own agenda, right? Like the school committee, somebody from the school committee is going to want to know be focused on somebody who's going to support the schools and the budget, versus another committee. Like it's just right now there's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's oh my God, I'm losing my mind. I am drawing a blank, but there's no stake. Like the moderator doesn't, aside from appointing the finance committee and running town meetings, like he doesn't have an interest in the school budget or the municipal budget or anything, right? There's that individuality. And what I would say is, again, back to Meg's point, we have such a hard time filling positions that adding in any sort of an appointment committee where you have a formal process is going to turn people away. I think that there's a vacancy right now on the finance committee. So, again, think about putting in the additional formality. It's a struggle now. I think anything more that we put in there, we're just going to have a difficult time doing it. And I think right now the independent perspective from the town moderator, I think, is more valuable than having people who have a vested interest in a certain part of the budget to, kind of sway the people who might apply to the finance committee because they have a vote in getting the appointment. That's my thought.
Yeah, and I think it's a very, I can see that point of view. And I think this is kind of where, we separate a little bit. I believe that people that want to be on the committee, this committee isn't going to make sure that, I don't think this committee is going to keep people away. It's just a process that wouldn't be any different than if they put an application into the town moderator. The difference is they're going to be required under open meeting law. I mean, you say that there is an interview process. I've never heard there's an interview process, and there may be, but I've never heard it. This way, I know there's an interview process. I know that, when we talk about the independent individuals, we've been blessed in this town to have people that have always put the town first, but that could change by one election, right? If someone says, I don't like that schools are getting 70% of the money and so on and so forth, I'm going to put in a conservative slate. I'm going to be here for 3 years. I'm going to put a conservative slate of finance committee members in. They could easily change the vote in a very impactful way. This way, you have less of a chance of people swaying a committee that is the most important, that is required. The great thing about people that I thought should be on this, and I'm open to suggestions on maybe changing the elected boards or the format, is that you've got the school, you've got the town administration, that's a balance. You've got the planning board, which talks about development. You've got very even people that are elected by town members to be on this nominating committee that are running the operational side of this. So, I don't want to take too long because I think that we could debate this. I just want to do an intro. I mean, I still want to maybe move forward with a couple more minutes on it, but I just want to make the introduction because I do want to, Jack's not here too, and I want to give him an opportunity, obviously, to feed into it as well. But one of the things that last time I introduced this to the board, and I think the timing of it, of my own some of the stuff going on with me personally, interfere with that, and I didn't give the board enough time to debate it, talk about it, bring suggestions, get your feedback, like it's a good idea or bad idea. This is just something that I'm pretty passionate about, and I've talked about it when I ran for the select board, is trying to bring transparency. I think we all in our own way talk about a certain amount of transparency. For me, I think this is an important way that we can bring transparency to a very important committee in our town.
Hey, Michael, you brought something up in your comment, and I would just like to provide a suggestion. You made a comment about, not having transparency into an interview process, or, what that process is. I mean, you may consider, as opposed to an appointing committee, that you put in a procedure or a policy within the bylaws that says, the appointments that are made by the moderator should follow this process, right? Like there's an official notice that there are seats open where they submit an application or resume to, and then an interview process, and maybe even a summary that is made, prior to, or discussion with other boards. But again, I still think that the accountability and ownership should sit with the moderator. That's my opinion, but if like I said, if I would, just based on what you were saying, like wanting to see that transparency, I think that can be built out as a process itself, as opposed to an appointment committee. So you can have that transparency, and you can have the discussion where maybe the influence of the other groups isn't considered, or like nobody can say, well, so and so influenced this, but they might just have the discussion and provide their opinions, and have that open transparency without actually being a decision maker. I know we have some other folks on. I know Zach spoke before. I don't know, Michael, if you're going to open it up to others.
Before I do that, Renee, there's one of the things that I was blown away by, and I didn't expect this number of these. Over the last 20 years, people are changing to an appointed committee. The towns are changing to an appointed committee. I was blown away by it. At first, when I saw the number, I was like, is this how it's always been? And then when I back and did some research, I've seen the change here. So to that point of, of the 100 towns that basically have finance committees or some process to appoint finance committees, 43 of them in the area are appointed by a committee, not just the town moderator. But anyways, yeah, absolutely. If I'll be glad with the vote. I mean, I know that this was an internal discussion for us. Do you guys want to open it up and see if there's any feedback?
I just have one question before you open it up. Are you looking for in the long run? Are you looking to present this as like from the select board, or are you looking for our approval for like this coming on one of the town meetings?
If the select board decides not to take this on, I mean, hopefully my hope here, Christine, is that the select board takes this on and presents it to town meeting. Both of my articles that I would like to propose and so forth, and they kind of bring it forward as the select board voted, and then from there. But if the select board decides they don't want to take this on as collectively, right? I mean, I'll judge it from there. I know that several residents have approached me and said, that's a great idea. And at that point, I could just hand it off to them and see if they would bring it forward. But ideally, this is something that I'm pretty passionate about. It's what I ran on, one of the things I ran on. So this is something that, this is kind of where I am.
And Michael, did you say that was 43 towns currently have this out of 350? Out of Plymouth, Bristol County, Middlesex, and Norfolk. Those are the 4 counties that I looked at with 100, and out of those, there were 133 cities and towns. 33 of them, give or take, were cities. Okay. I'll be glad that you can see, you have the spreadsheet now. Yeah, I'll look at the spreadsheet. I heard the number. I just wanted to ask.
33 of them are cities, so they don't have a finance committees per se. So that leaves 100 of those towns. Of those 100 towns, and the only reason I chose those counties, they're the closest ones around us. Going out to Berkshire County, sure, I'll be glad to do I mean, if you really want me to research, it took a lot to research 350 towns, 133 towns. I'll be glad to do it. Of the area around us, there are 100 towns that have this process. 43 of the 100 towns have an appointing committee process. And that appointing committee isn't the same design as this. That could be select board. That could be a finance committee. That could be a collection of different elected officials, which is very common. But there could be just a finance committee of elected people. There are some towns that actually have elected positions for the finance committee. Right? Back to your point, Christine. So but there are 43 towns that have, will not just the moderator is. So, as chair, it is the select board. Do you want to open the floor up to questions for others that are here? Okay. Do any residents or any residents or any of the audience have questions about or discussions regarding our comments? Okay, that's that. So what I do, what if it was okay with the board, if I would like to maybe.
Hey, Michael, I just want to know, does everybody have the right to unmute themselves? Because I see everybody is muted.
Good question, Renee. I don't. Thank you. Is there someone specifically that you're?
No, I just noticed that it's. I mean, I don't know how a caller does it. I'm not a.
This is where Jack. We miss Jack.
Yeah.
Right?
No, everyone can unmute themselves.
Okay.
Mike, when is the designation for citizens petitions, and when is the deadlines on citizens petitions and articles that need to be sent for town meeting this spring?
A citizen petition would meet the same as any other article. Have to have it in before the warrant closes.
And do you know that date off the top?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
Though, if I'm not mistaken, it's I want to say it's mid-February. That's if I'm not mistaken. Would it be all right? Can I ask the board if I could put both of these on our next, an update and further discussion regarding the Public Works Department and this on the next meeting?
Can I make a suggestion? Just because my New Year's resolution is to not stack meetings. Because this particular discussion, I don't believe is time sensitive, if I'm not mistaken. It is?
It is, and I'll tell you why, Christine. Because our next meeting would be on the 19th, okay? Then the meeting after that would be the 2nd, and then we're at the deadline.
No, I don't think the warrant closes until March.
Yeah.
March 9th, 7th or 9th, somewhere around there, I think.
Okay, so that's all right. I have no problem then if you guys want to do the 19th and then the 2nd. So let me do a little more work on it by the 2nd for this piece. But on the 19th, I would like to bring back Public Works proposed article and have some more discussion on that and give you guys updates on the working committee and so forth. Is that okay?
I think that's fine, Michael. And I know last time we talked to, one of the things that you had mentioned was you hadn't had time to socialize enough. So I'd like to hear from some of the other groups too, like from the school committee and those members of the planning board or the moderator too, right? To understand what is the current process, if he feels there are deficiencies or has any recommended changes as well. And I do see a hand up, but I can't do anything about it.
I'll basically call on that individual. So on this in particular article, what I will do is I sent it to Walter tonight. All three pages tonight. I'll get Walter's feedback, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. And then I will also do that with the other committees that are come here. the other committees regarding this, to kind of present, and what their thoughts are on it. Are there any other recommendations, to kind of, for the next time I bring this piece forward?
I think, weren't we trying to coordinate a joint meeting with FinCom and school committee coming up this month?
The mic?
I thought we talked about that. Because that might be a good.
I don't remember all three of us. I vaguely remember FinCom just because I thought we said something like, oh, we haven't met with them in a while. But I don't remember all three. I mean, or maybe it was the two, and then another time we had mentioned us in the school committee. It could have been something like that. But I'm more than happy bringing everybody just to get everybody's opinions, or if somebody from each group wants to represent and come and speak at a select board meeting, if it's too much to get all three of us together, whatever works.
We try to do that, Christine, on a quarterly basis. I don't think we've done it in like 6 months to get the three groups together. It's been the last one I remember was actually in the
three group one since.
This
I don't think you've done one since I've been on the board. So.
Would you mind if I called on this individual right now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Caller, whoever the individual at 6186, could you just identify yourself and you have the floor?
Hi, this is Laura Parker for Allen Drive. How are you?
Good.
If I can offer some background, please, on this proposed article. On how finance or advisory committees are appointed. I'm going to excerpt from a 2019 meeting that the Charter Commission held with Town Council Lauren Goldberg, which she stated that under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 39, subsection 16, it provides the town the ability to create a finance committee by bylaw, and it is specifically silent on how that committee is appointed, and that is because it is a policy decision. The question of what is in the best interest of and in fitting with the town needs to be addressed. Historically, the idea that has been that a finance committee is appointed by the moderators because the finance committee answers to town meeting and not a particular board or committee, meaning towns want the finance committee to be independent of all other boards and committees. This is also the reason towns dictate by bylaw that members of the finance committee cannot be employees of the town nor sit on any other boards or committees. While it's true that we are seeing more towns adopt an appointing committee, it is not a rare situation where a single person elects the finance committee in towns with our current government structure. It's important to make sure we are looking at similarly structured towns, meaning towns with open town meeting forms of government and a similar number of select board members. Of the analysis that we did, there are 35 towns with an open town meeting form of government and 5 select board members and a population greater than 15,000. Where in which case, in this sample, Norton is the mean. Finance committees are seated in the following manner. In 62.8% of the case, they are appointed solely by the moderator. That's 22 of 35 towns. In 22.8% of the towns, or 8 out of the 35, they are appointed by a committee. In 2 of the towns, 5.7% of the sample, they are elected by voters. In 5.7% of the sample, 2 of the towns are select board only appointed. And in 2.8, in one of the 35 towns, it is a mix of elected and appointed. Of those towns that are elected by committee, there is a general consensus on who that committee should be made up of. And it is generally a small group, and it is generally a group that has no vested interest in the budget. The most common committee is the moderator, the chair of the finance committee, and the chair of the select board. Setting aside the question of who appoints the Finance Committee, there is also the question of why the proposed change, and that deserves further scrutiny. As has been claimed, there's no questions or problems with the appointees to the Finance Committee or any of the committee's current decisions. So the question remains, why bother? It's seems to be based solely on the tenet that the Finance Committee is, quote unquote, the most important committee in town government. If I could provide a refresher, the Finance Committee is an advisor to the town meeting. It is a deliberative body. It is not a decision-making body. It holds no power. It's also been mentioned that an appointing committee to the Finance Committee could be improved by adding more checks and balances. One could argue that a board consisting of 11 members on its own, in FinCom, provides a very good built-in mechanism of checks and balances. But there's actually another, even better, time-tested process, and that's called voting. We, meaning the constituents, can vote down an article at town meeting if we don't agree with FinCom's recommendation, and we can vote out the moderator if we don't like their appointments to FinCom. So my personal opinion is I don't think this is the best way of going around it. I don't think it's adding any checks and balances. I think it's an unnecessary addition of another level of government that is complicated. And I think to quote one of the prior FinCom members, when discussing this before, it is a solution looking for a problem, and it does nothing to improve the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers or anyone else have a question? Okay, then let's didn't break any records tonight there, Meg. So as we said, let's for the 19th, let's plan on bringing the. What I will do is I'll plan on bringing the proposed Public Works Department on for the 19th, give an update and have some discussion about that, and then we'll shoot for February 2nd for more discussion on this if the board is. Any that's it. Select board report. Yeah, I'm sorry, Renee.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get myself off mute. I was just wondering if can Laura send those comments that she just reviewed to the board, just so we can have them for consideration later.
Ms. Parker?
Will do. Let me. I'll put them together in a format with the Excel spreadsheet as well.
Thank you. I hope it's not too much trouble, but I think it would just be helpful as we consider it and have discussions.
I'll have it over to you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Okay, and moving on, select board report. I'm sorry, town manager's report.
Yeah, I just wanted to announce a couple things. We did receive a grant from the state to put 2 electric vehicle charging stations at the library. It's a $40,515 grant. So we will be hopefully installing those within the next 90 days. And go ahead.
Public? Are those for public use or for this?
Yeah, anytime the state pays for electric charging stations, they can be used by anybody.
Not to be like too nitpicky about this, but do you know where in the parking lot property that it's going to be, like towards the back?
They'll be right on the side of the building where there's a handicap parking spot now, and then there's like 4 spaces next to it. They'll be right in that area.
Got it. Thank you.
And Mike, are these going to be relocatable once the new building is? Are these relocatable?
They're going at the library.
Oh, the ones like that. I'm so sorry.
Hey, Mike, are these designed for people to pay?
They aren't. We
Like other
can't. Yeah,
Okay.
we can't charge.
So who, if we're not charging, who pays for it? Like, we get the grant for the installation. Who pays for the electricity?
It would be in the library's part of their electric bill. There isn't that great of a increase, from these charging stations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's 2, right?
2, yes. And also, Station 1 will be opening Friday at 7:30. So there'll be 3 staff people at that station, and an ambulance and an engine. So hopefully staffing levels stay adequate, and we're able to keep that open. But Sean just notified the department last week that will be opening Friday.
In the middle of the big snowstorm, Mike.
Well, actually, they normally did open sharply when there was a storm, so it's perfect. Perfect time.
So is this is in regards to storm readiness, Station 1, or is that going forward?
That's just a coincidence. It was scheduled to be open anyways.
Right.
Is it more associated to the fact that we actually have the staff now to support it?
Correct. Yep.
Which is
That
excellent.
grant that we received to hire 4 new firefighters enables us to do this. That's it.
Great. Select board report in there.
I don't have anything. Nope.
Jack, so for the record, Jack had signed the warrants. Payroll warrant PR 22-114 for the week ending December 25th, 2021. Warrant dated December 30th in the amount of $1,511,832.25. Payroll warrant PR 22-14A. Warrant dated December 31st, 2021 in the amount of $960. Invoice warrant AP 2226 dated December 23rd, 2021 in the amount of $1,138,139.14. An invoice warrant AP 22-27 dated December 30th, 2021 in the amount of $2,281.74. I'm sorry, $2,281.74.42 Oh, I have trouble with that. And the last is invoice warrant AP 2828 dated January 6, 2022 in the amount of $318,986.95. And those were signed by Chairman Jeff Conway. And our next meeting is January 19th. And we do not have executive session tonight, so the chair is open for a motion for adjournment.
Michael, before we do that, if I could just ask Jen and Mike, I don't know what the agenda looks like next week, but if we have enough room, I'd like to get at least updates from the 2 marijuana retailers on the HCAs that we signed, so we can get an update on the opening or just the status for Solar Retail Norton that is up by Xfinity Center, and then an update as well on the progress for Exit 10 LLC that selected that new location. I don't know what the agenda looks like, but maybe just a quick 10-minute update from them.
Yep.
Okay.
The building does look good on Mansfield Ave. The parking lot's done and the building looks good. So we'll have them come in for an update.
Awesome. Thank you. I also don't know if it's too early to call it, but can we possibly do next week's meeting, or the next meeting? I'm sure we're doing virtual, just to clarify.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we're going to have at least a month. if not longer, unfortunately.
Just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
January 19th meeting will be virtual, and the chair is open to a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
By Christine, second by Renee. All in favor, actually, sorry, Meg?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Renee?
Yes.
And I too am an aye. Thank you all very much.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.